Next week, in Miss Greer's biology classes, 120 students will take calipers to a collection of unidentified skulls from early humans and other primates. They'll measure eye sockets, brain cavities, and be able to trace the path of human evolution over millions of years. This is how science is supposed to be taught in our schools. STEM Library Lab made this, as well as dozens of other educational experiences, a reality. Right now, the United States at large, and Louisiana in particular, actually has a surplus of unfilled STEM industry jobs available to the right applicants. But only a tiny percent of Louisiana public school 8th graders are proficient in math and science on state tests, and therefore positioned to claim those jobs. New Orleans, a hotbed of education reform and change, will host the site of our first physical location, opening next school year. These are actual New Orleans science closets. The teachers at these schools are working hard to make do with what they have available. But that set of primate skulls I described cost $1,900, a tough sell when most public schools spend less than $3,000 a year on STEM supplies total. Our customers are teachers and school administrators. In many urban school districts, teachers are overworked and often underprepared or inexperienced in their specific content area. And with new science standards being implemented, schools need a cost-effective solution to providing high-quality lessons that drive at student outcomes. But equipping a robust modern science lab can cost over $75,000 per school. With 200 schools in the New Orleans metro area, that's $15 million for STEM supplies. And after spending all this money, schools still have to pay for storage and upkeep, ensure that these supplies are properly maintained, teachers are trained in usage and safety, and classrooms may use a given resource for just 3 or 4 days each year. This is inefficient, and it doesn't make sense. Here's what does make sense. The equipment share, hub and spoke model. Introducing STEM Library Lab. Picture a large room. Fill that room with microscopes, probeware, anatomical models, and the 1,600 other items teachers need each year to properly teach their classes. The value proposition has 3 main parts. For teachers, access to the physical equipment library, and training and implementation and safety. For school leaders, cost-effective organization with a focus on ease of transactional usage. We have thoroughly researched the education ecosystem and created a deliberate network of key partners. We spoke with over 40 teachers and dozens of school administrators and local education-focused nonprofits. We conducted partner-based research, visiting 8 similar lending libraries around the country to learn about challenges and best practices. And we've worked with local accelerators and fellowships to conduct research, build our network, and eventually launch our first pilot program. The teacher referenced earlier, Ms. Greer, is a member of the STEM Library Lab pilot program class. 24 area teachers have access to our comprehensive inventory online. They can request anything they need, and we express ship it straight to our office. They pick it up, it stays in their classroom for a week, then returns to us to seed our library, where other teachers can now borrow immediately. This lean testing model has already validated many of our core assumptions around the borrowing process. But data and feedback we collected from the pilot also caused us to pivot our fundamental model. The original hypothesis was that access to equipment was the key to equity. Feedback from our pilot test showed us that not all teachers were borrowing, and we set out to learn why. The answer is that simply providing access is not enough for many overworked or inexperienced teachers. While equipment offerings are the backbone, to use a science analogy, the internal organs of STEM Library Lab are the support structures we're implementing to ensure that this equipment is actually used with fidelity to drive improved student outcomes. STEM Library Lab is a 501c3 nonprofit. Our seed costs for initial research and to run our pilot are fully funded. Our inventory and startup costs will come from philanthropic giving as well as corporate underwriting. Though we have national aspirations, we selected nonprofit legal status for 2 deliberate reasons. Due to our high startup costs for inventory and low initial proof of concept beyond the local pilot, philanthropic giving has provided a much more stable source of startup capital than debt financing or equity from angel investors. We've already raised over $60,000 in money earmarked for inventory, which is far and away our greatest cost, and provides a testament to the selection of nonprofit status. Our startup cost projections and financial models follow a school year calendar and are based on interviews and meetings with other resource centers and local nonprofits. They assume $100,000 in inventory for year 1 and $50,000 in years 2 and 3, after which operating costs significantly level out. Within 3 years, STEM Library Lab will be revenue sustaining through annual dues paid by members. Schools buy a membership fee for about $2,400, which grants unlimited access to the previously mentioned services. This fee structure was set after extensive research on school budgets and focus groups with administrators around how current spending decisions are made. Our projections allow for a 3-year taper, in which school membership revenue grows as we shake our dependency on grant revenues. The pilot test, focus groups, and design research gave insight on how best to build relationships with customer segments. As an external vendor selling to schools, there are 2 channels to connect with a purchasing decision maker. The first is to be an established major company with a proven track record and validated product. The second is to be a social-minded nonprofit with a direct connection and relationship to teachers. As we're not the former, we determined that nonprofit legal status and grassroots entry to the New Orleans market provides the best foothold to leverage future success. Next year, we're aiming for 25 school customers by August, from the target market of over 200 New Orleans area schools. We have 7 schools currently signed on, validating our decision to select nonprofit legal status. The adoption cycle for schools runs from February through June, and with 7 schools already committed, we are on pace to hit our goal. STEM Library Lab also has a social impact goal. In 2018-19, serving 25 schools, using our pilot data as a guide, we'll create 40,000 additional hands-on STEM learning opportunities. So, what's the big goal? Right now, STEM Library Lab is piloting in New Orleans, but there's 100 or more demographically analogous metro areas around the country that could benefit from a similar lending model. We'd like to see Library Lab in all of them. And we believe we're the team to make it happen. Todd Wackerman is the founder and director of STEM Library Lab, bringing 6 years teaching physics and other STEM subjects in New Orleans and Brooklyn, and currently pursuing an MBA at Tulane University. Our co-founder and board chair is Sarah Siebert, who brings 10 years of nonprofit management, HR, and grant writing experience. Rounding out the founding team is Madeline Mesa, another Tulane MBA candidate with extensive PR and brand management experience. We have a team of mentors and coaches locally and around the country who advise us on finances, marketing, and go-to-market strategy. Ending the STEM education opportunity gap, providing all students with equal access to equipment and quality learning. That is a concrete problem with a tangible and achievable solution in the next 10 years. We are in a critical period of growth, and the IBMC funding will provide STEM Library Lab the necessary investment in infrastructure to provide our schools with a renewable, community-oriented resource as we continue to scale our pilot into our physical location and beyond.